A lot of people spoke to me in my comments in the past and said, you know what, I just dropped the game because it's so unfriendly. I can't pass through those bosses on specific builds unless it's Ice Strike Monk. Welcome back everyone, as we're starting another leveling process and the build guide, progressive build guide for Spark Sorceress in Path of Exile 2. I was attracted to the Sorceress builds for a while now, but I was trying to finish off my SRS Summoner Witch, which I just did and reached end game, and now is the time to look at this particular build, addressing some initial problems that you may experience as a beginner and giving you a bit of a vector of where I'm planning to take this build and how you could cut your teeth into the game, so to speak. Start of the game in Path of Exile 2 sucks for a lot of classes, unless they are really OP, such as the Ice Strike Monk, but enough was said about Ice Strike Monk in the previous videos. It's like in the league of its own, okay? At least at the moment of recording of this video. So, Spark Sorceress is surprisingly fun. Spark is practically the first skill that you get for the Sorceress, other than the Fireball that is in your staff, that you first get for free in your staff. Spark is the first active skill, and you will basically press one button and everything will die as the build becomes stronger. However, before we get there, that's what the experts forget. Before you get there to those heights, I suppose, you need to get past the Act 1 and beat the Act 1 bosses, and that is where the problem is. So this is where I hopefully will help you a tiny bit, maybe. So Sorceress, we are going to be building her around obviously lightning damage because it's Spark, and we are going to go all out damage while we can. However, what I'm already noticing as I just gotten past the first act bosses and gotten into act 2, what I've noticed is that you need to invest into defensive layers on Sorceress much earlier than on any of the other class that I tried so far. So first of all, what we're going to do is, let me show you the build. We are going toward the lightning nodes, of course, and elemental damage nodes. We are progressing from Sorceress, increasing spell damage, all going all the way up, this line up. That's what we're going, where we're going, up. And we are continuing up, branching off at this intersection towards Overexposure, Stormbreaker, Drenched, Lightning Quick, and Branching Bolts. So this is your initial vector. It's not a build guide, it's a vector, it's a progressive build, yeah? And we're going to check in after this act is over again. However, before we go there and before you charge up that way, as we would have done on our Ranger, as I would have done on my Monk, here is what I've discovered. On the bosses, obviously with trash it kind of doesn't matter, but on the bosses, earlier bosses that I have not recorded and later bosses of Act 1, such as the Executioner and such as the Count Giono, obviously the wolf guy, things become tough because you do not yet have overwhelming damage output, no matter what you do with these nodes, no matter what you do. And you're still very skinny, just like the witch was, except the witch has a layer of minions supporting her, and here you are on your own, rolling around and needing to stop and cast before anything happens. And Spark, let's be honest, Spark is something that is not really punchy. It is something that spreads and hits everyone. Of course it will become really OP and strong once we empower it, but at the moment we have not yet. So what we need to do is we need to slow down a little bit. If you don't want to pluck all your hairs, I have not much to pluck. If you don't want to be caught doing that, you need to invest into defensive layers, both physical in terms of gearing as well as the talents. What are we doing? We're slowing down our progression upward, as I just mentioned to you, and instead we're deviating right hand side here, taking increased mana regeneration rate, increased maximum energy shield as extra defensive layer early on, and branching downward here also for energy shield. Energy shield gives us a little bit more of that punch resistance, so to speak. So that's as far as the build is concerned. I'm slowing defensives, I'm investing, slowing offensives and investing into defensives. That's the first thing. Secondly, over here I used to have just early gear. It's solo self-found. Yeah, I should have mentioned it straight away. I always play solo self-found. I've been lucky buying this rather massively increased lightning damage wand, which is good for now. And I have also, a meh, but okay, I suppose, this focus, which also has increased lightning damage and critical hit chance for spells, which we don't care about, but it doesn't matter that it's there. This outfit is insufficient for Count Giono. Instead of that, I had this wand, and at the moment it's in the offhand, but I've actually had this rare shield, which again is nothing to write home about, but it's a shield. It gives massively increased block chance. It gets a little bit towards armor. Fire resistance and lightning resistance are of less of a value here because Count specifically as the primary boss of Act 1, he hits you with cold, mostly with cold. But we are beefier with that. Additionally to that, swap your charm, forget about immunity to freeze. These charms are either bugged or they do not seem to work very well. Maybe they run out of charges too often, I have no idea. But I've used this charm thinking that he will not be able to freeze me. That was my experiment, and I'm gonna save you the time trying to do the same. It doesn't work. He still freezes you. You see it on the screen. So instead of that, I recommend swapping that charm to cold resistance charm. Just get a cold resistance charm. The more cold resistance, the less damage he will do to you, the better off you will be. So this is my early advice to you, for you, my friend. I think that Spark, which has a massive potential, at the same time though, defensive layers are a lot more important by the looks of it for this build than for any other build that I've done in the past. Final thing before you go, skills. Obviously Spark speaks for itself. I'm using controlled destruction because I do not want to do critical hits. I want to do more damage with hits early on. I'm doing Unleash in order to do more sparks, basically. Yeah, maybe I'm a little bit impatient on Unleash. I love seeing sparks fly, and I think for clearing it's very good. However, maybe I'll replace it with something that increases the punch as opposed to increases the number of casts. Yeah, so maybe Unleash, I'm a little bit too early on this, so jury is out. Flame Wall is important. Flame Wall is there to make sparks pass through Flame Wall and make them hit harder. But additionally to that, very important, Flame Wall is a fire spell. Of course, we are not gearing up for fire. We're gearing up for electricity, for lightning. So I'm doing it only for the cheat of Raging Spirits, my friends. Of course, it's not a minion build, and of course, we're not going to do anything to beef our minions later in the game. But Act 1, like I said already, is the hardest thing to cut your teeth into the game too, before you pass through those bosses that simply will make you want to drop the game, as a lot of people spoke to me in my comments in the past and said, you know what, I just dropped the game because it's so unfriendly, I can't pass through those bosses on specific builds unless it's Ice Strike Monk. Okay, so Raging Spirits will help you a lot. Raging Spirits is a persistent buff that will consume all of your spirit. You don't need spirit at this stage. I've given them Feeding Frenzy so that they do a lot more damage at this stage anyway. One way or another, I can tell you that even in the non-minion build, so this is a bit of a meme part of the build, however, trust me, it helps early on. It helps you beat those bosses. It helps the Raging Spirits to do a little bit of whatever they do that help the little damage that they do, overwhelming those enemies while you're rolling around and while you cannot purely cast Spark and do some substantial amount of damage. So that's probably the biggest advice I can give you as starter of Path of Exile 2 on a Sorceress. That's it, my friends. So I hope you've enjoyed this little introduction into the new build that I'm starting. Very happy to have you on board and following me on this journey. If you have watched the whole video, please give it a like. You're very special to me. And more videos about my Spark Sorceress are now going to be coming, just like the SRS Witch, Summoner Witch, was coming before. If you've missed those videos by any chance, but you want a much easier path and much more OP-like overpowered build, it's not Ice Strike Monk, but it's pretty good. SRS Witch Summoner is a very powerful build, then maybe check out those videos as well. Thanks for joining me. I'll talk to you next time about something else, Path of Exile, and probably this Sorceress related. Goodbye for now.